Okay, I'll keep the waiting room emptied. I've started the recording. My system will decide to work today. So welcome everyone to the app Recon business process training. We have some excellent subject matter gurus here today, Alexi Greenleaf and Donna Benson, of course, backed up by the esteemed Leslie Miska. I'm here to do the housekeeping with you all. So as with all of the other Evergreen webinars, attendees are muted. The session is being recorded, and we do have the transcript and captioning turned on for everyone. Please use the Q&A box to ask questions. So you should see a little Q&A button in your Zoom menu, which may be hiding under the little 3-dot button that gives you more options. We're taking all of those Q&As and posting helpful things to our website under the FAQ section on the training page. So keep an eye out there for updates coming very soon. So with that, I'm turning this over to today's speakers.
Thank you, Miranda. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the application and reconsideration training. I'm Alexi Greenleaf, one of the waiver service specialists, and with me is Donna Benson, the other waiver service specialist. We will be discussing the process of submitting a waiver application within the Evergreen system. The slides and videos are material that's pulled from previous trainings that can also be found at the Evergreen Data System Training website.
The purpose of today's training is to go over the actual process, not just the technical pieces in Evergreen, but over the process and how the flow will work, as well as reminding you of all the pieces and materials that need to be submitted. This is for sections 21 and 29 waivers, just those two. And I want to remind everyone that when a person goes through the intake process and is found eligible for DS services, that is around case management and crisis support, and that waiver applications are separate processes. Evergreen's packet bundles all of the required application materials or reconsideration materials together, which the comp assessment, which will replace the BMS 99, the PCP, the required cost estimate, and anything else that needs to be submitted. The third bullet there about completed after main care section 13, that's mostly around new folks to you coming into the system when we're in Evergreen. So don't let that throw you for a loop.
So the application reconsideration packet has 4 types of applications that can be submitted in Evergreen. The first is the application, so initial section 21 or section 29 application. Reconsideration of priority, this is for section 21 only, and when there's been a change in the member's health and safety. The application non-standard is the initial 21 or 29 application when a person wants to keep children's behavioral health case management. And the reconsideration of priority non-standard, section 21 only. Same as reconsideration, however person wants to keep the children's or behavioral health case management. Thank you. So the 6 videos that are on this screen, we're going to be playing throughout this presentation. These videos are also found within the case management training session B.
reconsideration packet. And so within this, we have to have that completed PCP. So I started my new form, left navigation menu. My form is application classification. My form type right at the beginning, application reconsideration packet. And I click next. I have my program that I'm going to select and the type. I have here application, reconsideration of priority. I have application non-standard and reconsideration of priority non-standard. Non-standard is used if somebody wants to keep the case manager that they had for the children's waiver or behavioral health, rather than selecting a new case manager. Now, always, if this is the first one, we're selecting application and clicking save. Looks like other forms. And I have my status. I have my completion requirements here. And you can see that there's forms that I need to create or add. This DD yearly cost estimate, this is completed outside of the system. And Leslie, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you if you would like to say something about that now, or if you'd like to hold off for your training, which is better.
Probably our training, if you're speaking specifically to the DD yearly cost estimate, because I have no idea what that is.
Okay.
I just know that it's required, Lisa.
That's cool. See, we're all learning, and this is why playing in the system is important.
So with that being said, the cost estimate is a required form and we will still continue to use it. As cited here in rule, it's used to determine whether waiver can adequately meet a person's need. You can find this form, the most current version, on our website, highlighted below. Once you open the form, you'll notice that there are two tabs. There's a tab for section 21 and a tab for section 29. Please make sure you're filling out the correct tab. When you're applying for both when you're applying for both 21 and 29, you can complete just one form and attach it to the application packet.
We're going to take a look at the section 21 tab here a little bit. The frequently recommended services include some type of home support, community support, and employment services. The services indicated on this form should be the same ones that are in a person's PCP that the team recommends to meet their health, safety, functional needs and their goals. I want to remind everyone that the PCP team determines the frequency, duration, and scope, and that recommendation does not need to be limited by what is in policy around individual budget caps or combined limits, but just know that those limits do exist. And if you're not sure what any of these services are, please use the link on the PowerPoint to get to the main care benefits manual so that you can look up in covered services, finding out the definitions for these services. Also recommend you look at non-covered services and limits in that policy. Also, just to piggyback on the previous slide, if you're submitting applications for both 21 and 29, please fill out both tabs and save it as one. Thanks. Section 29 tab, as you can see, there are fewer services. Again, we reference the main care benefit manual so that you can find out what those covered services are. The same frequently recommended services are home support, community support, and employment services. Again, these should mirror what's indicated in the PCP. The team may choose to follow limits or caps in policy for the cost estimate here, especially for 29, but is not required to do so.
Next, we'll watch a short video on submitting the comprehensive assessment.
I'm going to open up my right toggle. So here it has the information that I input when starting the form, and the system knows the date. I have the forms checklist. So I need to add the comprehensive assessment and the person-centered plan. Well, I'm going to come over here for the comprehensive assessment and click link. I have only one comprehensive assessment. And so when I click on the ellipsis, oh, okay. Again, we have another learning opportunity because I came over here and I clicked on the ellipsis, and I'm sure you noticed I was looking at this a little like, okay, I'm not seeing what I want to see. And that's because I did something wrong. It's not a matter of clicking on the ellipsis. I need to click on the form in order to get the link button. I want to do this again. So I clicked on this and I click link. At some point, there's going to be a long list of comprehensive assessments, and I need to choose the one that is completed and active. Well, again, my thought was, let me go to the ellipsis. Notice there's no link button here. There's nothing I can do to select link. So I was doing something wrong. I have to click on this assessment to say to Evergreen, this is what I want to add. It gives me the link button, so I click link. Now, for some of you, you may be saying, she's the trainer, she's supposed to know all of this. She's supposed to have it down. Well, to an extent, you're correct. But I will also tell you, I have done these many, many times, and every once in a while, there is something that I find that doesn't necessarily work the way I think it will. There are things where I have to take a minute, step back, take that deep breath, and read my screen again. You are going to experience the exact same thing. And because you're going to experience it, I'm okay in admitting to it.
So we just want to reiterate that when you're linking a comprehensive assessment, you want to link the most current and complete assessment when you're submitting the application. And just like the trainer before said, you will probably come across buttons and dots that you'll click. It may not work. Don't panic. For this one, you want to click the actual link where you'll get the link button to link to the application. Now we're going to watch a short video on submitting the person-centered plan.
So now I'm going to do the person-centered plan. And I need to link this. And I have multiple person-centered plans. I want to get the status of active, because even though they're both completed, it's only an active plan that I can link. Again, I'm going to click on the plan or click on the form, and then I get the link button and I can link it. My completion requirements show the forms are done. I still have to attach that DD yearly cost estimate. More information on that to come. So I've come up to attachments, clicked that add new attachment. You're very familiar with this process now. Oh, my finger slipped. And some would say, well, why can't we keep this outside of the system? Well, the reason you're putting it here is so all the information is in one place. You don't have to go searching in a bunch of different places for forms. Your reviewers don't. So my completion requirements are done. I'm going to update the status and I am going to submit this. And I need to add a comment that I'm sure. And this is saved and it's now pending review. This goes off to the BI waiver manager. And they get a notification.
So again, very important that you find the most recent completed plan for the active plan for the application process or application packet to link. Once you've linked both the completed person-centered plan and comprehensive assessment, your forms checklist is now complete. Then we'll move on to the attachment checklist. The attachment checklists are forms that you're going to attach to these application packets outside of the Evergreen system that will need to be uploaded to complete the application. The cost estimate is a required document that you will attach to the application packet. So you'll choose the new attachment button. There you go. Thank you, Miranda. Which will pop up the screen. The next page, the next slide. It will pop up this screen where you can choose a file. That will bring you to your cost estimate. You'll choose your cost estimate. You want to make sure that you're checking off the category as DD yearly cost estimate. This is important because this is going to be part of the application packet that you need to submit. The effective range, so the start date, you can just use the date that you're attaching that document. So if you're uploading the document today, you just use today's date. And you can use the, you can just add a short description in the short description box and then save it. Once you save that, now the cost estimate is part of your application, which will also include the comp assessment and the PCP.
If you are submitting additional materials, especially for a Section 21 application or reconsideration, this is where you would want to attach any of those extra documents or materials. So you would upload them the same way you would upload the cost estimate. That way they all come with a packet and it's all one packet with everything right there. Just remember, if you're submitting extra materials, that the materials need to be relevant to the person's circumstances and as especially with the way the rules are written around their proximity to abuse, neglect, or exploitation for the priority levels. So you want it relevant to their health, safety, and functional needs.
So once the application packet is complete, you'll notice that the tab that is circled will now say completion requirements, and they'll have 2 check marks. At this point, you're going to submit the application to the waiver service specialist by changing the status from in progress to submit. The next couple of slides, we're gonna show a short video, but I just wanted to let you know the next couple of slides is just for informational purposes for you. It's more of showing what is gonna go on after you've submitted the application.
Hey, this is waiting for you. They open it up because they're going to do the review. They are going to click Start Review. I'm showing you this because you have to do it to go through the workflow when you're playing in the sandbox. Evergreen won't let you do this. It's again got that guardrail for you. You have a lot more access right now. I'm going to click Continue. And as this reviewer, I have this forms checklist. I can click here and it opens the comprehensive assessment for me. I don't have to go to forms, search for the form. I clicked and there it was. I'm going to click back. So I'm back in the application reconsideration packet.
One of the things we didn't show in that video, but that also happens behind the scenes, is that the waiver team can open or can hit the print button and get a copy of the BMS 99. This is still our assessment tool per policy and Maine's waiver application with CMS, the Fed. So we still have to use this. This is a functional assessment and not an assessment of capacity. And this information is actually coming to us from the comp assessment that you complete. A person's medical eligibility is based on their qualifying diagnosis and functional abilities for sections 21 or 29, just the same as medical eligibility for section 50, which is the ICF IID group homes. The qualifying diagnoses for sections 21 and 29 are intellectual disabilities, autism, or Rett syndrome.
Now I want to take a look at the person-centered plan. I click on it, it opens up. So I can do all of my due diligence. All of that looks good.
Okay, none of this is a change from current practice. Things are going to look a little bit different in Evergreen than they do in EIS, but we're still going to be looking for documentation of the person's health, safety, and functional needs, looking at their goals, looking at which waiver services and other services and supports the team recommends. Most of the time, we're going to be looking in the My Life Planning section. For most of that information, we're also going to be reading the summary of the meeting and checking that the PCP has the appropriate approval signatures when we're reviewing the PCP. As far as signatures go, signatures must be collected according to case management and PCP manuals. And that, as far as we're concerned, it needs to be signed by the person or guardian if they have one, and the case manager. I know that signatures will be allowed, either wet signatures that will be uploaded, or you will have the opportunity to do e-signatures. We're not going to be the ones giving you a lot of technical assistance around that.
I would take a look at the attachment. I want to check completion requirements one more time. They're all good. And so now I can identify if the person is medically eligible, not medically eligible. Remember, I have a different hat on right now. I'm not a case manager. Or request clarification. If they are requesting clarification, they're going to input the reason or what clarification is needed. You are going to get a notification that's going to say, hey, this PCP is out here. Clarification is needed. Or excuse me, not a PCP, the application reconsideration packet needs a clarification. You're going to then open it up, obviously read the clarification that's needed, open it up, make the necessary change, update the status again, and resubmit this. In our
Again, most of the time when we're reviewing the application or reconsideration, we're going to determine whether the person is medically eligible or not medically eligible. If there's a request for clarification, it's probably going to be around additional information that we didn't find in the PCP or the comp assessment, VMS, or if there's conflicting information in the materials and we just want to find out more what's going on, especially with Section 21 applications where we're determining a priority level. Speaking of Section 21 priority levels, I want to recommend that everyone keep a copy of the main care benefit manual for Sections 21 and 29, both of them. Keep them handy. Keep a copy on your desktop of your laptop, especially if you travel with that when you go to meet with members and their families. And that way, as you're discussing priority levels or anything else, you can actually just show them what it says in the manual itself. When it comes to the priority levels for Section 21, I really recommend you pay a lot of attention to pages 10 and 11. That's where they're found. And I want you to remember that for priority 1, almost all those criteria must be met. There's a couple where it could be one and one other, but a lot of times they say and. So there's a lot of information in there and a lot of criteria, and they all must be met completely. For priorities 2 and 3, the main care benefits manual gives you some examples, and I recommend you read those as well.
Once the determination has been made, the case manager will be able to see the determination in Evergreen. We will also send a written notice to the person and/or guardian.
There are times when someone's placed on the waiting list at a priority 2 or priority 3, and then circumstances change in their life that affect their need for services and support, that affect their health, safety, functional needs, their goals, all of that. At that point, the team can decide whether or not to submit a reconsideration of priority. This is for Section 21 only. There is no reconsideration for 29. Again, I'm going to refer you back to the main care benefits manual to read those priority levels and talk to the team about what exactly they are and determine whether or not someone may meet a higher criteria. Then we're going to go over the pieces to submit a reconsideration.
So submitting a reconsideration packet are the same steps as previously discussed at the beginning of this presentation. However, you'll choose program section 21 and consideration priority as the application type. You will again link the current and completed comp assessment, PCP, and your section 21 cost estimate.
If there are additional supporting materials that you want to submit to support the higher priority level or the hope for one, go ahead and attach them as you would the cost estimate so that they can be complete with the packet and everything's all together at once, and it can all be reviewed at the same time.
The section 21 waiver information form that we're all used to is still going to be a requirement. The only change is it's only going to be required when you're submitting a reconsideration of priority. So for initial applications of section 21, this is not going to be a requirement once Evergreen is in practice. So currently we're still requesting it. Once Evergreen goes live, you will not have to submit one unless it's a reconsideration. This will be considered an external document, so you'll have to attach that to the application packet, just like the cost estimate.
We're going to ask you to complete this and answer all the questions, to provide all of the additional information when requested. For example, someone who needs home support, you can see the big arrow in the circle there. There's a drop down. Please tell us what type of home support they need. This information should mirror what's in the PCP. You're going to let us know all of the section 21 services that are needed based on the member's current situation and circumstances. Next slide, please. Again, some more questions here. Please answer the questions. There are some of them have a drop down. Some of them ask for some text. Be brief with the text. All the details are likely in the PCP. You do not need to copy and paste from the PCP into this form. This form and the questions, the way they're asked, actually are around the priority levels and give us a little bit of an idea where things are going. This is the last part of the form. The questions there and those bullets are still accurate. Obviously, you're not going to be mailing anything to HCBS regarding the application, but do take the time, review it, make sure that all the questions are answered. And if there's any additional information, you can even just tell us where to find it in the plan if it's outside the usual places we look.
So we want to thank you for joining us today. We highly suggest that you rewatch informational webinars and microlearning videos, recorded training sessions, and read the FAQs on the project website. If you have any loose ends in EIS, finish those up so that you finish them up before the actual deploy and participate in the Q&A sessions. If you have any questions, feel free to email those to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov.
I did see one question in the chat, and it was, how recently does the comprehensive assessment need to be done before the application or reconsideration? And I just want to one, state that as far as the comp assessment and the PCP and the technical information around those, that information is going to come from your liaison more than from the waiver team. It's my understanding that when you complete a comprehensive assessment, it's usually done in advance of updating a PCP or developing a new PCP. So whatever instructions or trainings you've been provided on that, follow those. I would say that for an application, if you've got someone who's going to need waiver services, you're probably going to want to complete the PCP and submit that fairly soon after completing the PCP. Hopefully Evergreen will make a lot of that documentation and submitting of things easier, since you just have to be in the system click, attach a couple things and send it off. For a reconsideration, you're probably going to have definitely reversioned or updated a comp assessment and then made changes to a PCP to document the changes in circumstance and how it's affected the members' health, safety, functional needs, how it affects their goals, and how it affects the services and supports they need to meet those. I don't see any other questions at this time.
I also did answer a few questions, Donna, while you guys were going along just around the recording. So the recording will be posted out on the project website along with the PowerPoint slides. And there was a question around printing as well to capture signatures. I did answer that one. It was more technical in nature. So in case people aren't watching the Q&A, just to be aware that Evergreen does allow you to print any form that you're in using what's called the global print feature. You can use the control key and the P key. You press them at the same time and it'll pop up a printer menu on your screen, and it will print the form as you're seeing it on your screen. So if you've navigated into a form and all the sections are collapsed, it's going to try to print it with all the sections collapsed. If you've expanded all of them, it will print it with all of them expanded and all the questions and answers showing, or you can like expand or collapse certain sections if you want to do that. But the PCP itself has a special print. It's called a custom print. And so when you're inside of the PCP, you can use the little printer icon that's on the menu, and it will give you some print options. One of them is called Person PCP Print, I believe. Hopefully I'm getting that terminology correct. And that, if you use that, it will print the PCP everything except for the comprehensive assessment stuff that you can view when you're inside of the PCP. So it will just be the PCP questions and answers, and then you'll have the signature section at the bottom. So you can capture that wet signature if you want to do that and then upload that as an attachment to your PCP before you set it to complete. I can take the next question that's in the Q&A about the Evergreen, access to the Evergreen sandbox. Unfortunately, we're still struggling to get people into the Evergreen sandbox training environment. We have attempted a couple of different times, but because these are shared credentials and we're sharing them across a lot of different users, as soon as we send them out, multiple people are using the wrong password and locking the account. So we're still working with the vendor to try to find a better way to get you guys into the Evergreen sandbox training environment. So we appreciate your patience, and please know that we're continuing to try to find a way to get you guys in there so that you can navigate around before we go live.
Somebody asked about the Section 21 waiver information form, and I just want to say that right now it is still required for applications and reconsiderations, and will be as long as we are live in EIS. Once we are live in Evergreen, the Section 21 waiver information form will only be needed for reconsideration of priority.
I can take the next one, Donna. So there's a question about the deploy date or the start date for Evergreen. We still do not have a definite deploy date. As you guys probably saw from the email communications, we did end up having to push that out. And since we're past January 16th, that's pretty obvious at this point. But we are still working with the vendor to solidify that actual deploy date. We do hope to be able to announce something very soon. So please keep your eye on your email. We'll be submitting that out through our normal email channels just as soon as possible. And I did also answer another question and submitted that for those that didn't see it around progress notes. There was a question around printing progress notes. Those will work the same way as forms. They're just in a different section of Evergreen. So you'll navigate into the progress notes section. when you've completed your progress note, it will display like a form. And again, if you have all the sections open and you use that Control P global print feature, it will print the progress note as you see it on the screen. You can collapse some of the sections if you only want to show certain pieces of it.
Leslie, there's a new question in the Q&A. I don't know if you've had a chance to catch it.
Matt indicates that or is asking, will we definitely have the opportunity to use the sandbox before the launch date, or is that unknown at this time? We are trying everything that we can, Matt, because we do recognize the importance of that, and we want you to be able to do that. But at this time, I can't say definitively whether or not we're going to be able to find a solution that will get you in there. But hang with us. We're going to keep trying. We really do think that it's a critical component to the training. And we want you to be able to navigate around in there before we go live. So we're gonna keep trying, and hopefully we can make that happen.
I also want to add that I've been using a very limited portion of Evergreen for about 4 years now. We've been using it for the wait list. When application materials come in, we're uploading them to a member's record. We're using it to document priority levels. That medical eligibility is done, that the waitlist dates for 21 or 29, and then the medical eligibility dates for both. We can indicate when the person has an offer, when it's received, and then when they're classified. So it's much more limited than any of the trainings that you've seen recently. It was very easy to learn. The more I use it, the more I have been very much looking forward to Evergreen Live for everything. I know it'll be different, and you've spent a lot of time learning at EIS, but I really think you're going to find the transition to Evergreen a lot more intuitive and not as difficult as it looks. I know learning a new system's always got some challenges with it, but that overall it's been very easy to use, and really difficult to really mess things up, which has been great.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you're able to give that perspective from somebody who has been using the system for the program management waitlist feature for several years now. And I agree with Donna. And it's probably easy for, somebody like myself who's in an information services manager role to sit here and say, oh, it's really not going to be that difficult. Any change does have a learning curve that comes attached to it. You've got to reorient yourself with the look and feel of that system. But there is a lot of similar functionality to EIS. So once you've been in there for a few days, a couple weeks, and you know how to kind of navigate around the system, you'll find that you pick things up really quickly. The design of the system is very consistent in the sense that, menus are going to be in a similar location. Buttons are going to be in similar locations so that you can add things, edit things, save things. You're going to have consistent layouts on landing pages, like table format list pages and stuff like that. So once you kind of are in there for a few days using the system, you'll find that it's pretty intuitive and easy to find things, even if you've never filled out this form before or been to this particular module. It will have a lot of similar features, and you'll be able to pick it up pretty quickly. And I'll also say, I'll take this opportunity. Nobody asked. Well, actually, we did just get a question about a manual. That's a great question. Yes, we are working to finalize a system user manual, which we will also distribute to everybody in the next week or so. As soon as we get that finalized, we'll send that out so everybody has that. That is a technical manual, so it is going to only give you, high level technical, how to navigate, how to add a form, edit a form. It's not going to go into the details like you're getting on some of these training sessions, but you can always refer back to these training sessions as well. We will keep all of the recordings, PowerPoint presentations available on our project website in perpetuity, so that you can get to those at any time. And we'll also be rolling out a really robust post-deploy support plan. So more information to come on that as well. I've been working with Elizabeth Betsy Hopkins, our associate director, and some of her team, including Donna and Alexi and others, to come up with a really good post-deploy support plan as well. So even at worst case scenario, if we can't get you into the training environment, that sandbox training environment, and you have to go into the system kind of cold in the sense that you've never actually logged in and navigated around yourself, you will have all of the recordings to rely on. You'll have the technical user manual. We're also working to update some other critical manuals like the person-centered plan manual and some other policy and process type documents that are of high importance. So we'll try to get those done and distributed to you ahead of time as well. And then you'll have some details shared to you again, like in the next couple of weeks around where do I go for what types of support, so if it's technical in nature, you might be able to go to FEI, our help desk, who's available during normal business hours. If it's more business or policy or process related, then there might be a different contact that you can use to get a more accurate and faster answer. So working to put all those details together and planning to send those out to you in early February. Yeah, and Krista asks about the new forms and protocols and whether they'll be added to the ODES website. Yeah, great question, Krista. So we will upload all of the recordings will stay out on the Evergreen site. So all of the training recordings, PowerPoint presentations, those will all stay out there. We will upload revised versions of things like the PCP manual to the ODES website. We'll replace the one that exists there with the revised final version. And all of the training documents like the person-centered plan manual, the Evergreen technical manual, and some other supplemental support documents will be available inside of Evergreen. So when you log in, there is a little help icon to the far right upper hand corner of the system. And in there, there's a navigation item called the Help Center. And when you navigate there, it will have all of your guides, manuals, little micro learning videos, little training clips, stuff like that, that you can access right from within the system. But we will put some of those important ones outside of the system as well, just in case you're locked out of the system and you need to get to them.
Leslie, also, we have a page we call our forms and protocols page where we actually keep our current stuff. So I'm thinking this question may be about that as well. So Krista, we are not, and everybody, we're not going to change the forms and protocols page right now because we are not changing anything immediately. We're still in EIS. We still need you to do those external documents and submit all of those, such as the Section 21 waiver information form as a cover sheet for any 21 application, as well as reconsideration. We will be discussing with internally and having new forms and protocols available as soon as we can. Those changes to the website, as you know, take a few days, but we definitely will be moving some things around. I also want to let you know, though, you're not going to see a lot of changes for a while to the the children's and behavioral health case managers stuff, because they're not going to get access to Evergreen right away. Children's case managers, we're hoping, will eventually be using Evergreen, and there's a process for training and reaching out to them to get them on board. But so all of those links that are still there, they're going to need to have those on the website. We'll leave the things that you need now until we move into Evergreen, and then the forms and the protocols will change, and the forms will be a lot shorter around the waiver processes, because most of those will either be available internally to Evergreen, or there'll be forms that you'll need to complete and upload.
I did just answer another question, and there's one more that sort of fall into my wheelhouse. So the one that I answered, that I typed the response to, just so that everybody can hear it, is also regarding that sandbox training environment and a request about whether or not a fake person account could be made available with the in the production system with the client data for practicing. So my response to that was certainly consider that. However, test data should not be entered in a production system. I know in EIS, we have some test person records and people use that. In Evergreen, we were really trying to avoid that. And the reason for that, just so everybody can understand why test data should never be put in a production environment, is that lots of reports and queries and things are built off of the production database. And if there are fake person records or fake data attached to person records in a production system, that gets counted when certain reports and queries get run. And so it can skew data. So we really don't want fake records created in the production environments. So because of that, we will work really hard to try to find you a different environment that you can access to play around in, test, train in, that kind of thing. And then the other question that has come in is around, can notifications in Evergreen go to your agency email address too? This is a fabulous question. In Evergreen, when you're logged in the very far upper right-hand corner, there will be a little picture icon, little templated picture icon, or if you choose to upload a picture for your profile, it will be a picture that you've chosen to upload for yourself. And that's where you can see that you're logged in. That's where you can also log out of the system. And under there, there's a menu item called My Profile. And if you click on that, it will take you to your user account, your staff profile user account. And you can manage some things on that staff profile account. So you can keep your phone numbers, addresses, email addresses up to date yourself in Evergreen in that area. And one of the other options that you have there is around your notifications settings. So if you would like to receive your notification to your agency email, you can select to have Evergreen notifications send a notification to your email address that you have on file. Now, keep in mind that all that notification is going to be is a very generic notification that tells you that you need to log into the Evergreen system because you have a notification waiting for you in the Evergreen system. And that is because we don't want secure private information being emailed outside of the Evergreen system. So it is very generic, but if you're a user that's not going to be in the system every single day, you know, if you're not a community case manager or a BI care coordinator or a state case manager, you may want to check that setting so that you are alerted to get into the system and keep your eye on your notifications or check out a notification that comes in. Oh, I'll take this one too. Bridget is asking a question about whether they'll need to reach out to establish a relationship with the provider to add the ability for the provider to have access to the client Evergreen. And her other part of that question is, do we still need to have any assessment that was done incorrectly deleted, or will we be able to do those things yourselves in Evergreen? Two great questions, Bridget. So first question, about getting a provider to have ability to access a person record. So if this is a waiver provider, a provider that's going to be that has been or is potentially going to be selected to provide waiver services to a person, those assignments will happen automatically through the person-centered planning process. So the community case manager or BI care coordinator will in the PCP, when after the planning team meeting or at the time of the planning team meeting and after the waiver services have been added and the state review has occurred. So our resource coordinator or BI care monitor has reviewed the plan and the services and approved those. Then the community case manager or the BI care coordinator can go to the waiver service. At the bottom of each waiver service, there's a area where they can invite providers to submit a service implementation plan. This will automatically create the service implementation plan, and it will send a notification in the system to that provider agency that they've been invited to submit the SIP. This will not give them access to the person record yet. This will just tell them that they're being invited to submit the SIP. Once they've filled out the SIP, submitted it, and the CCM or BI care coordinator has reviewed that with the person, and the person has chosen this provider, has selected this provider to provide their services, then the CCM or the BI care coordinator will add that provider to that waiver service in the person-centered plan. When that occurs, the system will then auto assign that location to the person record. So they will gain access to the person record automatically. Similarly, if the person chooses to no longer have that provider through the person-centered planning process, either a revision to the PCP or at the time of the annual planning when it's revised, the provider will be removed from the waiver service and the new provider will be added, and the provider that's no longer going to be providing the service will be auto unassigned, and the new provider will be auto assigned. So providers will be assigned and unassigned automatically through the person-centered planning process, but they do need to exist in the system in order for that to happen. So if it's a brand new provider, that's going to go through the current process where, like if it's a brand new location or a brand new organization, they should reach out to our resource coordination team and go through the ODES waiver provider approval process, and then go through the MIMS enrollment, Office of Main Care Systems, MIMS enrollment process, and then they'll get added to the Evergreen system, and they'll be there so that when the CCM or BI care coordinator wants to invite them for the SIP, they can do that, and or they can auto assign or unassign them. Your second question, Bridget, was around if you have like an assessment that you created an error, like a reportable event that you created an error, or you started a PCP and you created an error, there are workflow options for the community case, certain roles. So community case manager role, BI care coordinator role, you guys do have the ability to close forms that were created in error on your own. So, if you revised the wrong PCP somehow, or you weren't ready or something along those lines, you can set that to close with an appropriate close reason and a comment, and it will allow you to close that form that was created in error. That being said, if you ever run into an issue where you're having a challenge with something like that, my team will still exist and we will still be here to support you with other challenges. So you can always feel free to reach out to us. And that will all be laid out, what email addresses to use and that kind of thing will all be laid out in that post-deploy support plan. I'm going to skip Leslie's question really. Oh, actually, I guess I can respond to this one too. So will the provider need to have a release of information before the CM gives them access? So good question, Leslie. Yes, we're still going to need releases of information before new users are added to the system and or new organizations or locations. So the process that currently exists for setting up new users, new locations or organizations will remain the same, and the same releases of information will be captured, and we will so for organizations and locations, I think the form will be exactly the same. But for new users, we will be updating the new system user document so that it aligns with Evergreen and the roles that we have in Evergreen, and we will be sharing that out as part of the post-deploy support plan as well. And then Megan asks about the provider who gets invited to write the SIP. Will they be able to view at least view the PCP, right? Great question, Megan. So providers who are invited to submit the service implementation plan and do not yet have access to the person record will access the service implementation plan through their location forms list page. And when they access the SIP through that location forms list page, they will, at the top of that SIP form will be displayed to them portions of the PCP which they will need in order to be able to fill out the SIP. So you'll see some of the overview from the person-centered plan, some of the about me, so person's preferences and things like that, how to support the person. And then you'll see the relevant goals and all of the needs, strengths, barriers, and your service and any other services that are linked to those relevant goals so that you can populate the service implementation plan successfully. Yes, Angela's saying, isn't that what every provider will see when notified to submit a SIP? Yes, Angela, it is. So sorry if that wasn't clear. All waiver providers, that's what you will see when submitting a service implementation plan. I probably didn't phrase that great. I think Megan's question was concerning the fact that they didn't have access to the person record, and I kind of breezed over that. But yeah, all providers who fill out SIPs will see that same exact arrangement. Like, we got all the questions, Donna.
Thanks for picking up on all those Evergreen technical questions. That was really helpful. As you all are case managers, especially, you're thinking through things. If you have questions about processes or questions about what's going to happen when the waiver team reviews things, reach out to us at hcbs.waiver@maine.gov. In the meantime, though, as long as EIS is still the system we have live, nothing changes. Everything we talked about today, those are changes that are going to happen when we go live in Evergreen. We wanted you to have the information as soon as we could put it together. As you can see, there are more things in Evergreen than we have in EIS, so you'll have less documents that you'll have to attach, but the process really is the same. Everything's much more internal. You'll be able to see the status all along the way, so you'll know when we're reviewing it, that kind of thing. So fewer questions, hopefully, around most of that. Alexia, do you have anything to add?
Well, I want to just do a quick shout out to thank Donna and Alexi for doing this business process training with you. I was happy to be here to be able to support and answer the technical questions. And as I mentioned in the questions and answers, we will definitely be posting this to the project website, this recording, as well as the PowerPoint slide deck. That will hopefully get posted early next week at the latest. So there is one more question that Angela put in the question and answer. So she's asking, if a provider does not have a location assignment, how do they get notified to complete a SIP? I'm not sure, Angela, I completely follow the line of questioning. So in Evergreen, the provider does not have to have a location assignment to the person in order to get invited to submit a SIP. They just need to exist in the system. So they just have to be a location that exists in the system. And then the community case manager or the BI care coordinator will select that location, and it will send a notification to that location. So any user who has the role of SIP provider, or the role name is called PCP data entry, which is a little bit misleading. But that was before we made some policy changes that we made that name, but it's the SIP provider role. So anybody in that location that has the SIP provider role would receive the notification that they've been invited to submit a SIP, even though they don't have a location assignment to the person record yet. And then they would fill out the SIP, and then that would then, when they submit it, trigger a notification back to the community case manager or the BI care coordinator, who would then review that with the person. And then if the person approves the SIP and wants to select them as the provider, then they would add them as the provider to the service in the PCP, which would then auto assign that location to the person record. And then the individuals who have that user role, that SIP provider user role, would then be able to navigate to the person record and see the person demographics and navigate to other forms through the person record at that point.
Just want to thank everyone for attending the training today. I know there's been a lot of trainings lately. Really appreciate your attention to this as we get ready for Evergreen. Hopefully the answers were clear. Again, if you have anything around the waiver process, email us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop recording and end the webinar. Have a great day.